Hi, my name is Mike Zuckerman, and we're going to take a deeper look at service-oriented architecture, SOA, the benefits it provides, and how advanced data virtualization can further enable the return on investment for your organization. Cuplix, as you know, is a data integration and data management company. Data integration is core and central to the themes necessary for SOA deployment. Our unique capability with advanced data virtualization will give you greater flexibility, faster speed, and lower risk in your deployment to build out SOA-compliant architectures. We've been in business since 2004. You can see many of our customers by looking at our website and our customer case studies, or contact us at sales@cuplix.com to learn more. SOA, of course, bridges business services to different data sets, and the landscape is very complex. It would be difficult enough if we were just working with enterprise relational-based applications, but we're not. Some of these applications are custom, so we have to work with the database tables directly. Some have varying and different APIs to their business objects, such as SAP or Siebel. Some are APIs in the cloud. Salesforce and NetSuite are becoming more predominant in our landscape, and everything in between, from XML to the new NoSQL database structures. And all of these need to be brought into a strategy that lets us deploy SOA. The basics, of course, are to build out software components that are independent, reusable, and redeployable, and enable us to build out new systems and services very easily. The process, of course, is to start by looking at our workflows, to understand the pieces of business function that we want to achieve, and then to break it into modules that we see potential reuse for across new applications in the future. They should be combinable and recombinable into systems as required. This was sort of the basic promise offered by object-oriented programming, and now at the business level, we want to accomplish the same goals. Prior to SOA, I think we know that applications have been fairly monolithic and separate. Data sets or data services in support of these are mostly hardwired. If it's a proprietary application, they are part of the proprietary app. And if there's an integration in place, it's complex, it's an instance, it's a little bit of black box and custom code, and usually legacy technologies such as ETL have been used. Data warehouse connections have also been hardwired with lots of ETL and lots of process. And generally, this world has been expensive and proprietary and not easily enabled to fast redeployment to support new business opportunity. After SOA, we want to see a set of applications that are built upon reusable business services. And we want to see reusable business services that access all of the data repositories in the enterprise. Of course, this picture looks simple and wonderful, but in fact, the complexities in getting here are tremendous. Data repositories, as we saw earlier, can be object, can be relational, can be NoSQL, can be in tables without an API inside an application, or can be accessible only through stateful vendor APIs that vary with each version and each release. There's a lot of complexity here to build out a ubiquitous service. And the goal really is a ubiquitous data service that enables all of this different data with security to all of the potential new consuming business services and applications. So what is your master plan? How are you going to do this? Well, you're going to have to start by modeling your business process. You need to look at the project and segment it into crisp and clear chunks of functionality that have order and that have priority. This is a business level view. This is not a programmatic view. This is what you have to achieve. It may involve people, it may involve computer screens and data, but it's about the high level business process. Workflow here is really what comes out. What do you do? What happens next? And what are the conditions that could make this vary? And you're really building out a library of workflows to get all this together in a way that you can make sense of it. The challenges to SOA, of course, the devil in the details is about data services, getting to all the data sources. It becomes very, very difficult. The goals for the data services layer are defined by the SOA standard, and you can use any tool, but that's the devil in the details. The vendor tools are all over the place and fundamentally based on ETL or some equivalent set of varying hardwired integration technologies. There is no generic way to access all data sources, so you're building out the SOA promise with tremendous expense and a lot of proprietary tools. And you know, it is not the case that you have to do it with web services. You're using everything under the sun in most enterprises, and you're not getting to all your data sources. You have relational sources, you have application embedded, you have API driven, whether cloud or legacy. You have XML sources, no SQL sources. But yet, at the business user level, if you go back to this slide, business users think about business processes and generic access to data. They want business objects. Down here at this level, we're encumbered by all of the technology soup that gets in the way of access to those business objects. And so the challenge is, how do we build out a generic approach to data services? How do we allow access from any business service to any necessary data repository without tons of complicated programming and standalone pipes, without creating unauditable piles of code that damage the integrity of our compliance or create security problems for our organization? SOA tells us, and we know that metadata is key, but static approaches and separate tools bring a tremendous workload and don't bring a tremendous benefit. Standalone metadata repositories are slightly better than spreadsheets and printouts, but not much. So the success for a data access layer, really, if you're building out SOA and you want to see how it should look, would be that your metadata is living, breathing, and stateful. All of your data, through knowledge of metadata, can be integrated with any business service. Immediately, changes in schema in relational or object entities is immediately understood. There's not a delay. It is living and breathing, and that all of this interconnectivity is automatically maintained and adjusted. Metadata is part of the true data services layer. You need to have it integrated tightly with all your data sources. You need to have respect for your enterprise security models, because now you have an inflection point where you have access, so security must be maintained. And you need to know everything about the data, but you really don't want to store the data. You know, you have to think carefully about building out data marts or operational data stores until you understand the implications of doing that. It's much better to have a view where you've got all the metadata, but you're holding none of the data. And finally, in doing this, people talk about there's need for real-time integrations and application level integrations that are complex. And when you do that, you're putting hardwired triggers in databases. Generally, you know, these are things you don't want to do if you can avoid it. You want to avoid triggers and invasive integration points, because invasive integration points by definition are less flexible. Advanced data virtualization answers all of these things affirmatively. Yes, the metadata is living, breathing, and stateful. Complete integration with business services, complete interconnectivity, automatic adjustment to changes in schema. Yes, a true data services layer is empowered by advanced data virtualization. A hub and spoke. It is a persistent metadata server. It is persistent. It is integrated to all sources without exception. It supports whatever your model is, such as LDAP, and it knows everything about the data without storing the data. Of course, depending on the nature of your integration, you can always code triggers, but you can support many of the data services access types and integration without hardwired triggers, using what we call a virtual trigger. And this gives you a lot more flexibility and creates a lot less problems for your DBAs across the different enterprise repository stacks. Application software blades are the reusable components that support the data services access, and they obfuscate away everything about the proprietary nature of the data repository, the versioning, the specifics of the API, whatever it is. It's presented as a business object layer, and this business object component is reusable. Our application software blades make it easy for business users to use the system, and you can do this without programming. It's checkbox and configuration oriented. No programming, no SQL required to integrate all of these different applications in a SOA respectful and compliant way. There is no other way to do this short of advanced data virtualization, and that's why you're hearing so much about data virtualization, because SOA is part of the runway that's making this jet fly farther and go faster. Advanced data virtualization does a lot of things that you can't do any other way. It is record level change data sensitive, not files, not rows, just specific records in a surgical strike from relational or object entities can be part of your enablement, and it's across all data types. It lets you visualize the end product. So you're building out a new construct to support a new business process. And you need to take 2 columns from this table, 3 columns from that table in a different application, and 4 columns from these 2 tables in this third application, match them to this key, and here's what you need to get. You can see the result virtually before you create it and before you deploy it. You can see it in the Advanced Data Virtualization dashboard, yet the data hasn't moved. But the data has been brought together, the data may even be transformed, and that's the power of Advanced Data Virtualization. It's got a lightweight touch on the data entities, but it's got high performance because it really is all about the metadata. Heuristics enable semantic alignment. So you're working with all these data sources, and now you have a data dictionary where, of course, you can see the field names from entities or the column names from relational tables. But now as you start to align them to support business process, you can give them unique names specific to your team, you as a developer or a group or a governance or committee group. And that data dictionary allows faster reuse because the semantics make sense. Yet, unlike many classic legacy integration paradigms, custom fields can be automatically ingested into these new formats. So if you pick up and redeploy, and now you're moving from one deployment of PeopleSoft in the US to another in Europe, and you bring in all the XML with all the rules you've created, it's automatic. The system automatically sees the customizations in this new PeopleSoft domain and then allows you to adjust for it. This is part of the power that Advanced Data Virtualization brings. Advanced Data Virtualization, as we deliver it, is a unified delivery platform. So chances are today, if you're a large enterprise, you're concerned about SOA, you're dealing with the right hand of this chart. Salesforce has probably crept into your organization somewhere. Other cloud apps are coming, and you're trying to adjust your security model. You know the cloud is coming someday, but the big vendors that sell you the right side of this picture for integration, perhaps with ETL or perhaps with some platform which is using ETL, really can't give you a vision for cloud deployment that is compatible. They are incompatible visions and require that you redo a lot of the work you must have. This picture, if you deploy with QCloud to support Advanced Data Virtualization and a data services layer for SOA, or you deploy a virtual data manager in your data center, is 100% identical. Everything you do can be immediately repurposed between these environments, or you can even mix these environments. You can have our on-premise deployment and our cloud-based service together. None of the large or major vendors can support anything like this, nor will they do so for several years. They're years away from being able to support it. So as you think about architectural constructs like SOA, unified delivery platform is part of what you need to think through, a related and important concept, and you have that all today if you go with our SOA enablement. The benefits for SOA with Advanced Data Virtualization are, fairly obvious. The system architects, you know them already. The business users know them. The cost of deployment, business process, time to react, and one living source of truth. This is why Advanced Data Virtualization enables you to build out virtual master data management, which is a far more capable and agile way to deploy, master data. And this single source of truth is living and breathing in source operational systems. It is not static. It is not a time slice in a data warehouse or a legacy MDM repository. It's a very powerful capability that can support all of your reusable business process and all of your new application architectures. Thank you for spending time with me today, learning more about service-oriented architecture. Give us a call, email us at sales@qplix.com. We'll be delighted to help you. Thank you.